welcome to Noonzzz. Here, sleep doesn't come from silence, but from a gentle story. You don't have to fall asleep just yet. Just stay a little longer. Everything will feel lighter soon. You arrive just as the rain begins. Not the loud, drumming kind that clatters on windows and makes people hurry along beneath umbrellas, but the gentle, kind light and misty, as though the sky is exhaling slowly, rinsing the town in a quiet hush. You step from the cobblestone path beneath a wooden awning, your shoes making the softest tap against the old, worn planks. Before you stands a small bakery tucked into the corner of a sleepy lane, its sign gently swaying in the breeze. The words are painted in a soft hand, the hearth and honey. A warm light spills out from behind fogged-up windows, casting a buttery glow onto the wet street. You reach for the brass handle, still cool from the morning air, and as you open the door, a golden warmth greets you, carrying with it the scent of cinnamon, cardamom, and something just pulled from the oven. The bell above the door gives a soft, musical chime, not sharp, not bright, just enough to say, "Hello, come in, take your time." Inside, everything feels a little slower. The world outside narrows into the quiet clink of ceramic mugs, the occasional turn of a page, the rustle of a newspaper. A record player in the corner hums gently, spinning some soft, crooning tune from another time, the kind of music that feels like a memory you never made, but recognize all the same. You brush the rain from your coat and step farther in. There's a counter along the left wall, made of dark, knotty oak, worn to a gentle sheen from years of elbows leaning and hands resting. Behind it, wide wooden shelves hold rows of fresh loaves, each nestled in linen cloths. Some are topped with golden seeds, others dusted with flour like the first snowfall of winter. At the far end of the counter, an old espresso machine hums softly, its brass fittings polished to a warm glow. Beside it, a tray of tiny ceramic bowls holds cubes of brown sugar, soft cream, and a few sprigs of fresh mint. A little sign suggests milk, sugar, or try a sprig. It's your moment. Behind the counter is a man you've seen once or twice, in passing. You don't know his name yet, but his presence is familiar in a gentle, far-off way, like someone you might have dreamed once and forgotten. He wears a soft grey sweater with the sleeves pushed up, and he's wiping his hands on a linen towel as he looks up and offers a quiet smile, the kind that doesn't ask anything of you, just a welcome. "Rain's a good excuse for a second breakfast," he says, his voice low and kind. Something warm. You nod, drawn to the comfort of it all. There's a chalkboard propped behind him, written in neat loops of white. Honeyed oat scones, rosemary apple pie, still warm toasted rye with soft cheese and fig preserve. Lavender milk, hot or cold, you choose slowly, feeling no rush. This is a place without urgency. Time lingers here, like steam over a cup of tea. You settle on a slice of the rosemary apple pie and a cup of lavender milk warm, of course, and find a seat near the window. The chair is cushioned in soft moss green, fabric, and the little round table before you is scattered with tiny dried flowers, pressed beneath glass. You run your fingertips over the smooth surface, tracing the outline of a pale lilac blossom dot outside. The rain continues, soft and even. Droplets trace paths down the window pane in slow, winding rivulets. Across the lane, a row of ivy climbs the stone wall of an old bookshop. The sign above the door reads Quill and Lantern, its letters faded with time. A cat with smoky fur lounges on a windowsill just above the door, tail twitching slightly with dreams. Your pie arrives, warm and fragrant. The crust is golden, just a little crisp at the edge. And the apples within are soft and buttery, steeped with rosemary and the faintest note of leaven. The lavender milk is silky and warm, with the gentlest floral scent rising with the steam. You take slow sips, listening to the music, to the distant rain, to the pages turning at a nearby table. A small journal sits beside your plate, its pages thick and cream-colored. Perhaps it was left by someone, or perhaps it's meant to be shared. There's a pen nestled into the spine. Curious, you open it and inside you find little notes from strangers. Today I watched the rain and remembered how to breathe. The rosemary in the pie reminds me of my grandmother's garden. If you sit by the window, the cat across the lane might blink at you. It means hello. The notes continue, some long, some just a word or two. A shared quiet, an invisible thread tying one day to the next. You flip a few pages in and pause. There's a small drawing of the bakery itself, sketched in a delicate hand. The awning, the windows, the soft spill of light. In the margin, someone has written, "This place feels like exhaling," and it does. You lean back into your chair, the cushion softly sighing beneath you. The warmth of the pie settles in your belly, the lavender milk making your hands feel steady and light. There is no noise here but the friendly kind. No sharp edges, no pressing thoughts. The man behind the counter returns to kneading dough, the soft thump of his hands against the counter forming a rhythm you could drift to. The dough folds beneath his touch again and again, like a tide coming home. You don't look at the clock. It wouldn't matter if you did. Here, time isn't a line, it's a circle, warm and quiet, like the ring of the teacup you leave behind on the table. The bell chimes softly as someone else enters, shaking off the mist. A woman in a knit shawl, carrying a bouquet of herbs. She smiles as she passes, nods to you, and sets her bundle on the counter. "For the lemon thyme scones," she says gently. The man thanks her, takes the bundle, and together they speak in the hushed way people do when they're in on something quiet and good. You turn your gaze back to the window. The rain is easing, becoming finer now, like powdered sugar falling through the air. You think you might write something in the journal before you leave. Just a little note, nothing fancy, just a thought left behind like a footprint in soft flour. But for now, you sit, you sip, you listen, and the world just for this morning, is still. The light in the bakery shifts gently as the morning stretches on, as though the sun is moving softly behind a thick, quilted blanket of clouds. No sharp beams, no harsh brightness, just a muted glow, like the inside of a lantern on a foggy day. You're still sitting by the window, your empty plate pushed gently aside, your fingers curled loosely around what remains of your lavender milk. It's cooler now, but still pleasant, a comfort to hold. Outside, the drizzle has quieted to a whisper. The cobblestones slick and glistening, reflecting patches of pale sky between the puddles. The man behind the counter, his name, you discover, is Elliot, brings over a small plate wrapped in parchment. He sets it down with a small smile. "This one just came out," he says. "Toasted almond and pear on the house." You thank him, your voice still soft from the quiet. The pastry is warm and fragrant, the edges just slightly crisp. When you break it open, steam escapes like a sigh, revealing slices of tender pear and thin slivers of almond nestled inside. The scent is subtly sweet, tinged with vanilla and something floral. Maybe ELDERFLOWER. Elliot lingers a moment, looking out the window beside you. "That ivy across the lane," he says. "It grows almost a foot every week in spring. I've measured it." You glance over at the curling vines, climbing the bookshop wall with lazy certainty. "Do you trim it?" you ask. He shakes his head, a soft smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "No, I like to let it do as it pleases. It's polite enough." Then, just as gently as he arrived, Elliot returns to the counter, where a small group of regulars has gathered. One of them is an older man in a brown wool cardigan, holding a chessboard under one arm. Another is a woman in a pale blue beret, her scarf patterned with tiny crescent moons. They settle into their usual corner, setting up their game, sipping coffee with the comfortable silence of those who've shared 1,000 slow mornings. The chess pieces clink softly as they move, no tension in the game, just a rhythm like breathing, like kneading dough. A young girl arrives not long after, no more than 10, with a basket full of eggs and a braid down her back, tied with a sprig of rosemary. She greets Elliot like an old friend, setting the basket on the counter. "Mum says thank you for the lemon cake," she says. "It made Tuesday feel like a holiday." Elliot thanks her, offers her a small oatmeal cookie wrapped in wax paper, and she leaves with a skip in her step, humming a tune only children remember. You smile. It's a kind of smile that doesn't reach upward, but inward. Like a warm ember settling in the chest, time continues in its unhurried drift. The soft whir of the record player resets, and a new song begins, a lazy piano melody that sounds like footsteps on old wooden stairs, slow and measured, the kind of music that tucks itself around you like a blanket. You glance again at the journal on the table. Something about it invites you not just to read, but to join in, to add your own thread to the woven quiet. You turn to a fresh page. Your pen hovers for a moment before writing. The pear pastry tastes like something my grandmother would have made if she'd ever lived in a dream. You pause, then underline the word dream. It feels right here, in this place, where the rain knows how to whisper, and the ivy knows not to rush. When you look up again, the bakery has taken on a different quality, not a change, exactly, but a settling, a deepening, as if it's wrapped a shawl around itself. A few more guests arrive, each entering with the same quiet reverence. A postman with damp shoes and a fondness for cinnamon toast. A teacher on her mid-morning break, cradling a notebook filled with half-written poems. No one speaks loudly. The place encourages softness. You realize you haven't checked your phone once. It rests, forgotten, in your coat pocket. Out there, somewhere beyond the misty windows, the world ticks on. But in here, no one is counting dot. Instead, there's a shared slowness, like the hush of snowfall or the steady rise of bread dough. Even the air moves slowly, perfumed with cardamom and steam. Elliot returns with a small tray. Not for you this time, but for a shelf near the window, a collection of small, mismatched objects. Smooth stones, dried herbs, a tiny jar of cloves. He places a sprig of lavender in a small vase and adjusts a wooden figurine of a fox. That shelf, he says when he sees you watching, is the lost and found for quiet things. You look at him, tilting your head just slightly. Not actual lost items, he adds. Just little moments, things that don't belong anywhere else. People bring them in, leave them. Sometimes they come back for them. Most don't. You nod, understanding in a way that doesn't require explanation. The fox figurine is carved from pale wood, its tail curled protectively around its body. Beside it rests a teacup missing its handle, holding a bundle of dried clover. There's even a pair of woolen mittens, child-sized, folded neatly beside a worn book of lullabies. You wonder what stories those things hold, and how many of them are simply waiting to become someone's quiet treasure. The air inside the bakery grows warmer as the oven is fired again. Elliot moves with practiced ease, flour dusting his sleeves, the smell of rising dough mingling with the fading scent of lavender milk. You close your eyes for a moment and simply listen to the soft murmur of conversation, the creak of the floorboards, the rain easing into stillness. And in that small pause, the world slows even further, almost imperceptibly, like the moment just before falling asleep, when thought becomes dream and dream becomes breath. The hour grows softer, settling gently into early afternoon. The sky outside the bakery remains muted, brushed in layers of quiet grey. No sign of harsh weather, just a steady stillness, as if the day itself has curled into a warm blanket and decided to rest a while longer. A fine mist lingers above the cobblestones, catching light in pale glimmers. It doesn't quite fall, it floats. Inside, the bakery's warmth hums steadily, like a low note held by a cello. You remain by the window, still in no rush to leave, your second cup of lavender milk, now replaced by a pot of rosehip tea, Elliot brought over with a gentle nudge. "Try this one," he said with a smile. "It's like a quiet walk in the garden." And he was right. The tea is subtle and earthy, touched with something gently tart and floral. It fills your chest with a warmth that doesn't rise quickly, but blooms slowly, like petals opening, one by one. The bakery has quieted again. The chess players have packed up, leaving their corner with pieces reset for tomorrow. The little girl with the rosemary braid has likely returned home by now. Eggs delivered and song complete. You're not quite alone, but close to it, just one other guest, reading by the bookshelf, and Elliot moving gently behind the counter, tending to the dough with the care of someone folding letters into envelopes. The silence here is not empty. It is full, in the way that a fresh loaf is full, warm, weighty, offering something unseen but deeply felt. It fills the room with the sense that you are where you are meant to be, for no reason other than it feels good to be here. You shift your gaze to the bookshelf tucked into a nook behind your seat. It's made of old pine, the edges softened with time. The shelves are filled with well-loved books, cookbooks with handwritten notes in the margins, old collections of poems with dog-eared pages, nature guides and herbals, sketchbooks, and a few travel journals. One spine catches your eye. It's covered in a faded linen cloth, stitched with thread along the binding. You reach for it, slowly, the way you might lift something delicate from the sand. The title is pressed in gold, Wanderings from a Small Window. You open it to find sketches of simple things, window views, mugs, hands holding spoons, chairs with cushions shaped by time. Below each drawing is a tiny line of handwritten text, a quiet caption, sometimes poetic, sometimes plain. Morning begins in the spoon's shadow, clouds past like folded napkins, the silence of a cup left half full. The drawings and words seem made for this space, or perhaps this space was made for them. You turn a few more pages, letting your eyes trace the gentle pencil strokes, the featherlight shading. There's no rush to read, just a soft curiosity, like following the trail of a snail across the garden. At the counter, Elliot prepares another batch of bread. The scent begins to rise, slowly, warm and savory, with hints of rye and rosemary. He lifts the dough from the bowl with both hands, cradling it like something he's promised to care for. The dough stretches, then folds, then rests again. You watch his movements as you sip your tea. There's something about watching someone who's good at what they do, not in a flashy, showy way, but in the gentle ease of repetition, like he's done it 1,000 times, and still finds something new in it each time. The way he dusts flour across the board, the way he hums, almost too quiet to hear, the way his eyes soften when he glances at the oven, as though speaking to it without words. Another guest enters, a woman with silver-streaked hair tucked into a long braid, wearing a coat the color of dusk. She carries a wide basket draped with linen and sets it on the counter. Elliot greets her with the same soft familiarity he offers everyone. "Plums today," she says. the deep red kind. And I brought some lemon balm, too. Just started to. Come in. Elliot lifts the cloth, nodding with appreciation. They'll go into the galettes tomorrow. She stays for tea, choosing a seat near the fox figurine on the quiet shelf. From her basket, she removes a small jar, placing it gently beside the wooden fox, a gift for the lost and found. Perhaps it glows faintly golden in the light. Curiosity tugs gently at you, the way a breeze might stir a curtain. You ask Elliot about the jar when he passes by. Apple blossom honey, he says with a smile. She brings a few each year. That one's meant to rest there for a while, until someone needs it. Needs it? You ask he replies, tucking a clean towel over his shoulder. Sometimes people come in on a day they don't expect to be heavy, but it is, and they sit for a while, and suddenly the tea tastes better with a bit of honey. You smile at the thought. There is something gently magical about it all, not in the spell and potion way, but in the way that intention lingers, like the warmth left in a chair long after someone has stood. As the bread continues to rise, so does your sense of quiet belonging. The world feels held here. Not solved, not fixed, but simply held. You take another bite of the almond and pear pastry, still flaky, now cool. The flavor has softened, the sweetness mellowed, and yet it is just as comforting. Like a song hummed a second time, slower now, more familiar. The bell above the door rings once more, not jarring, but soft. A tall man in a knitted scarf enters, his hair still speckled with mist. He carries a cello case on his back and smells faintly of pine. Elliot greets him with a small nod and begins preparing something, perhaps his usual. The man sets the cello case gently by the fireplace and sits on the bench nearby. He does not open the instrument yet, just rests his hands in his lap. Fingers relaxed, you wonder if he will play. The fire crackles softly, though it's more embers than flame now. The warmth it offers is the low kind, the kind that stays in your socks and your spine. You lean a little farther back in your chair and let your eyes drift once more to the rain-smeared window. Outside, the mist is beginning to lift, but the softness lingers. The ivy on the bookstore wall glistens like glass, and the cat, still nestled on the windowsill, is now awake, grooming lazily, as if the day, like you, can afford to take its time. Inside, the scent of fresh bread deepens. The cello player adjusts in his seat. Elliot wipes flour from his hands and turns a page on the record player. And you, without meaning to, exhale softly. The room seems to listen with you. There is no announcement, no prelude, no shifting of chairs to signal the beginning, but still, the sound begins. The tall man with the cello doesn't draw attention as he places the bow against the strings. He simply lowers his head slightly, closes his eyes, and plays. The first note is low, long, and so gentle it might have gone unnoticed if not for the stillness that greeted it. It hums through the bakery like a breath shared between walls. You feel it more than hear it, deep and soft, like the comfort of a familiar voice in a quiet room. Then comes another note, and another, each one blooming slowly, like the unfurling of petals beneath warm rain. The cello doesn't cry or shout, it doesn't perform. It remembers. It recalls the shape of calm, the slow weight of joy, the hush of contentment. You sit very still, your cup now empty in your hands. Elliot doesn't move either. He leans against the doorway that leads into the small kitchen behind the counter, his arms folded, his gaze quiet. The silver-haired woman by the lost and found shelf closes her eyes, one hand resting on the jar of honey. No one speaks. The cello plays as though it knows this place, as though it has visited before, in silence or in sleep, and carries within it the scent of baking bread and lavender milk. There's a long moment where nothing happens at all, no new notes. Just the last one fading into the wood and the walls. A pause so tender it almost becomes its own kind of music. Then, slowly, the man lowers his bow. He doesn't rise, doesn't bow, doesn't ask for anything. He simply closes his eyes again, rests his hands on the curve of the instrument, and lets the room hold the rest. Someone sighs, not in sadness, just the way one does after something beautiful has passed through. Elliot returns to his work with a quiet nod toward the cello player, who offers the smallest smile before settling deeper into the bench by the fire. The warmth of the oven and the low light from the coals glow gently against his scarf. Now dry. Your tea is gone, but you don't feel the absence. You feel full in a way that's not about food or drink. Something in you has softened further, like the crust of bread cooling on the counter, steam rising in tendrils invisible to the eye but felt in the bones of the room. Outside, the mist has begun to lift. You can see the outlines of rooftops more clearly now. A row of small chimneys with lazy wisps of smoke curling up into the sky. The street is still empty, but the puddles catch the light differently, no longer grey, but silver, reflecting back a gentler world. The clock on the wall ticks on, but its sound is soft, rounded at the edges. Like everything else in this space, a rhythm that doesn't count down, but keeps company. Elliot approaches your table again, carrying a small plate. On it is a thin slice of something golden brown, speckled with herbs and dusted with cheese. Try this one, he says. Savory, tart with thyme and roasted leek. It's not sweet, but it's kind. You smile at that. Kind, you repeat. He shrugs gently, wiping his hands on a clean cloth. Some things just are. You take a bite and understand. The tart is warm, delicate at the edge, but full in the middle. The thyme sings in quiet harmony with the leek, and the cheese is the soft kind that melts on the tongue without resistance. It's food that doesn't need to prove anything. It's just right as you eat. The silver-haired woman stands and begins humming softly. She hums a tune you don't know, but it feels familiar, like the kind of song someone might sing to their garden. She places a hand briefly on the cello player's shoulder in thanks, then wraps her shawl around her and heads out the door. Her footsteps barely heard over the wood floor. The doorbell tinkles. The breeze that enters is cool and clean. You imagine the air outside smells like slate and moss and new water. You can almost feel the freshness on your cheeks. Even from here, Elliot adjusts the vase on the counter, replacing the old sprigs with fresh stems, a few violet blossoms and a clipping of mint. He moves like a person who trusts time, not as something to fight, but something to lean into. At one point, he notices you watching him and chuckles softly. "The bakery is always changing," he says, "but only a little at a time. Like bread, rising." He looks around, as if checking in with the walls and the shelves, and then adds, "It's never really finished, but it's always enough." You let that thought settle. The cello player finally rises, slowly and without ceremony, and slings the case gently over his shoulder. Before leaving, he places a folded piece of paper onto the corner of the lost and found shelf. You don't open it right away, but later, when the room is quiet again, you wander over and gently unfold it. Inside, written in neat, musical script, is a single line. Even silence can carry a tune. You fold the paper again and place it back where it was. Not everything has to be kept. Some things are better left where others can find them. By now, the bread Elliot was kneading earlier is cooling on a wooden rack behind the counter. The scent has changed. It's no longer full and doughy, but earthy and round. It smells like the kind of bread you'd serve with soup on a rainy day, or with soft butter in a quiet kitchen as the sun begins to set. Elliot slices a piece, sets it gently on a small ceramic plate, and places it on the edge of the counter beside a folded napkin. A little sign reads, "For anyone who needs a bite but can't find the words." You don't take it, but you're glad it's there. The sky is beginning to tint toward late afternoon now, though it's hard to tell through the soft clouds. The shadows inside the bakery have grown longer, but not darker, just a bit deeper, like the inside of a seashell, or the moment just before dusk fully arrives. You wonder how many people have sat here before you, how many will come after. What stories have been carried in on damp coats and quiet hands, and how many were simply left behind in the scent of baked pears and thyme outside. The bookstore cat has moved again, this time to a curled ball on the doorstep, tail wrapped neatly over its nose. The light through the window begins to turn golden grey. The music on the record player clicks softly as the needle returns to its resting place. And in the bakery, everything simply breathes. The light takes on a different tone now. It doesn't brighten exactly. It leans. It stretches long and low through the front windows, touching the edges of the counter, the curve of the teapot, the shine of the jar left on the lost and found shelf. This is the golden hour, not the sharp, dazzling gold of summer evenings, but the warm brass of a sleepy afternoon in early autumn. You can feel it shift the room ever so slightly, like the soft tilt of a picture frame that's been hanging in the same place for years. Your hands are folded in your lap, your body still, but your mind quietly begins to roam. not in a busy, darting way. It moves the way smoke rises from a match just struck, curling, loose, dreamlike. Thoughts drift like flower petals caught in a slow-moving stream. Memories that feel like stories, and stories that feel like home. The tart from earlier is gone now. Only a few soft crumbs remain on the plate beside your cup, which has been refilled not with tea this time, but with warm barley water steeped with ginger and a twist of orange peel. It's not something you've had before, but Elliot suggested it with a knowing nod. For the change in the light, he said, and somehow he was right again. It tastes like a late September evening feels, a little sweet, a little hushed, with something round and grounding beneath. Around the bakery, the room has thinned, the cello player is gone. The reader at the back corner has left a book resting open on their table, a dried leaf tucked neatly into the page as a placeholder. Elliot moves slowly now, not out of tiredness, but as though the whole place has slipped into its evening rhythm. The rhythm of slower breath, of softening light, of not quite goodbyes. You rise from your chair, gently stretching, and make your way to a narrow hallway near the back. Elliot points you there when he sees you glance toward it, a quiet nod, a gesture of permission more than direction. The hallway is short and painted in a soft shade of sage. Along one side hangs a series of small framed photographs, black and white or sepia-toned. None of them are labeled. In one, a hand cradles a bundle of time. In another, someone, perhaps Elliot, as a boy sits on the floor near a bakery window, surrounded by flour bags and sunlight. Another photo shows only steam rising from a cup, backlit by morning. There is something timeless about them all, as if the bakery has existed for longer than a place usually does. At the end of the hallway is a single door with a little round mirror hanging beside it. The mirror is old and round like the moon, with its silvering faded around the edges. When you catch your reflection in it, you notice, maybe for the first time today, how relaxed your face looks, how soft your shoulders feel, how light you've become. You return to the main room slowly, not wanting to disturb the stillness you carry. With you, Elliot is arranging dried herbs near the counter now, bundles of sage, mint, and something small and purple you can't name. He places each in a jar beside a handwritten card with their names and notes. Mint for clarity, sage for stillness, wild marjoram for when you're not sure what you need. You run your fingers lightly along the rim of the counter as you pass, letting the grain of the wood guide you back toward your seat. But this time, instead of settling in again, you wander toward the far wall, where the bookshelf waits like an old friend with more stories to share. Your eyes scan titles, slowly, then pause on a worn volume bound in deep forest green. The gold lettering on the spine is faint, but readable. Field notes from the window table. When you open it, the pages are filled not with paragraphs or stories, but with lists. Not ordinary lists, not to-dos, but lists of observations, small and lovely and nearly invisible to the fast-moving eye. One page reads, "Things that happened between 3 and 4 yesterday." Someone cried gently into their scarf. The light caught a spoon just so. The sound of a teaspoon tapping a mug matched the rhythm of someone's heartbeat. A moth landed on the window, then changed its mind. You turn another page. Things noticed in the quiet moments. Bread cools slower when no one is watching. Mint leaves float better in still water. People often sigh before they smile. You smile now, too quietly, because you have, in fact, noticed these very things today. Not in those exact words, perhaps, but in feeling, in rhythm. You return the book gently, placing it just so, and return to your seat by the window. The light has shifted again, fading more now, a touch more silver. The rain has stopped completely, and everything outside looks washed, as if the town took a deep breath and let it go. Elliot returns with a small dish of sugared fennel seeds and 2 thin slices of lemon shortbread. Not much, just enough for the in-between, he says. Before the lamps come on, you thank him softly and take a bite of the shortbread. It melts instantly, crisp, buttery, a little tart. The fennel seeds crunch softly between your teeth, bright and sweet. The world continues, but very far away. Somewhere beyond the town, a train whistle blows, a low, far-away sound that hums just under the breath. It doesn't break the moment, it adds to it. Like the cello did, like the rain did, like the scent of thyme and lemon peel curling in the air still does. You look around the room, taking in every corner as if memorizing it. Not because you plan to leave, but because it feels like something to hold. The lost and found shelf now holds a new edition. Someone has left a handkerchief embroidered with tiny stars. Beside it, the jar of apple blossom honey still glows softly, reflecting the last golden hints of day. You feel, in this quiet, something settle in your chest. Not an answer, not a realization, just the kind of stillness that makes room for rest. Soon the lamps will come on. Soon the oven will grow quiet. Soon the door will close for the evening and the bakery will sleep. But not yet. For now, the light lingers. And so do you. The light takes on a different tone now. It doesn't brighten exactly. It leans. It stretches long and low through the front windows, touching the edges of the counter, the curve of the teapot, the shine of the jar left on the lost and found shelf. This is the golden hour, not the sharp, dazzling gold of summer evenings, but the warm brass of a sleepy afternoon in early autumn. You can feel it shift the room ever so slightly, like the soft tilt of a picture frame that's been hanging in the same place for years. Your hands are folded in your lap, your body still, but your mind quietly begins to roam. Not in a busy, darting way. It moves the way smoke rises from a match just struck, curling, loose, dreamlike. Thoughts drift like flower petals caught in a slow-moving stream. Memories that feel like stories, and stories that feel like home. The tart from earlier is gone now. Only a few soft crumbs remain on the plate, beside your cup, which has been refilled not with tea this time, but with warm barley water steeped with ginger and a twist of orange peel. It's not something you've had before, but Elliot suggested it with a knowing nod. For the change in the light, he said, and somehow he was right again. It tastes like a late September evening feels, a little sweet, a little hushed, with something round and grounding beneath. Around the bakery, the room has thinned, the cello player is gone, the reader at the back corner has left a book resting open on their table, a dried leaf tucked neatly into the page as a placeholder. Elliot moves slowly now, not out of tiredness, but as though the whole place has slipped into its evening rhythm, the rhythm of slower breath, of softening light, of not quite goodbyes. You rise from your chair, gently stretching, and make your way to a narrow hallway near the back. Elliot points you there when he sees you glance toward it, a quiet nod, a gesture of permission more than direction. The hallway is short and painted in a soft shade of sage. Along one side hangs a series of small framed photographs, black and white or sepia-toned. None of them are labeled. In one, a hand cradles a bundle of time. In another, someone, perhaps Elliot, as a boy sits on the floor near a bakery window, surrounded by flour bags and sunlight. Another photo shows only steam rising from a cup backlit by morning. There is something timeless about them all, as if the bakery has existed for longer than a place usually does. At the end of the hallway is a single door, with a little round mirror hanging beside it. The mirror is old and round like the moon, with its silvering faded around the edges. When you catch your reflection in it, you notice, maybe for the first time today, how relaxed your face looks, how soft your shoulders feel, how light you've become. You return to the main room slowly, not wanting to disturb the stillness you carry with you. Elliot is arranging dried herbs near the counter now, bundles of sage, mint, and something small and purple you can't name. He places each in a jar beside a handwritten card with their names and notes. Mint for clarity, sage for stillness, wild marjoram for when you're not sure what you need. You run your fingers lightly along the rim of the counter as you pass, letting the grain of the wood guide you back toward your seat. But this time, instead of settling in again, you wander toward the far wall, where the bookshelf waits like an old friend with more stories to share. Your eyes scan titles slowly, then pause on a worn volume bound in deep forest green. The gold lettering on the spine is faint but readable. Field notes from the window table. When you open it, the pages are filled not with paragraphs or stories, but with lists. Not ordinary lists, not to-dos, but lists of observations, small and lovely and nearly invisible to the fast-moving eye. One page reads, "Things that happened between 3 and 4 yesterday. Someone cried gently into their scarf. The light caught a spoon just so. The sound of a teaspoon tapping a mug matched the rhythm of someone's heartbeat. A moth landed on the window, then changed its mind." You turn another page. Things noticed in the quiet moments. Bread cools slower when no one is watching. Mint leaves float better in still water. People often sigh before they smile. You smile now, too. Quietly, because you have, in fact, noticed these very things today. Not in those exact words, perhaps, but in feeling, in rhythm. You return the book gently, placing it just so, and return to your seat by the window. The light has shifted, again fading more now, a touch more silver. The rain has stopped completely, and everything outside looks washed. As if the town took a deep breath and let it go. Elliot returns with a small dish of sugared fennel seeds and 2 thin slices of lemon shortbread. Not much, just enough for the in-between, he says. Before the lamps come on, you thank him softly and take a bite of the shortbread. It melts instantly crisp, buttery, a little tart. The fennel seeds crunch softly between your teeth. Bright and sweet. The world continues, but very far away. Somewhere beyond the town. A train whistle blows a low, faraway sound that hums just under the breath. It doesn't break the moment. It adds to it, like the cello did, like the rain did, like the scent of thyme and lemon peel curling in the air still does. You look around the room, taking in every corner as if memorizing it, not because you plan to leave, but because it feels like something to hold. The lost and found shelf now holds a new addition. Someone has left a handkerchief embroidered with tiny stars. Beside it, the jar of apple blossom honey still glows softly, reflecting the last golden hints of day. You feel, in the moment the lamps come on, everything changes and nothing does. It's subtle, the way twilight slips in, like ink in warm water, like honey dissolving in tea. One moment, the world is holding onto the last edge of daylight, and the next, the glow from within becomes the softer center of everything. Elliot lights them one by one, not with a switch or a click, but with care. The sconces along the wall hold glass shades shaped like soft petals, their light warm and low, the color of candlelight reflected off butter. On each table, a tiny lamp with a stitched linen shade is clicked on gently, revealing just enough to read by, just enough to see the face of the person across from you. There were one, but tonight, it's just you. There's no loneliness in that just presence. A rare sort of quiet that doesn't ask anything of you. A space that expects nothing and gives everything in return. The bakery has begun its slow evening hush. Elliot moves less now, though not from fatigue. He moves like someone settling into a chair after a long walk, not because he's tired, but because this is the part he likes best. The after part. The glow part. He disappears into the back for a time, and when he returns, he brings with him something wrapped in dark cloth. You watch as he unfolds it behind the counter, revealing what looks like an old ledger or guest book, its corners worn, its pages slightly uneven. He opens it slowly, as though it's full of something breakable. After a while, he glances up and catches your gaze. There's no invitation in his expression, and no barrier either. just a calm openness. If you wished, you could ask. If you wished, you could stay quiet. So you stay quiet. Instead, you return your attention to the window, where night has begun to paint over the familiar buildings. The bookstore's lantern has been lit, casting a soft oval of light on the stone steps. The ivy, darker now, glistens with dew, and the bookstore cat, still grey, still soft, is now asleep again, curled in the same position as before, as if the day never truly passed. A breeze lifts the edge of a curtain beside you. The scent that floats in is cool and earthy, touched with wood smoke and rosemary from the bakery's hearth. Someone in the neighborhood is cooking something slow, something that will take all evening to become what it needs to be. It reminds you of childhood, or not quite childhood, but the idea of it's the sound of soup being stirred in the next room, the weight of blankets, the crackle of an old radio, a feeling of being safely enclosed in a world that knows how to hold you. Your barley water is nearly gone, and the last piece of shortbread has been savored, its flavor still lingering faintly on your tongue. Elliot returns with one last offering for the evening year, small glass dish with what looks like stewed plums, dark and glossy, flecked with orange zest and a whisper of clove. Evening fruit, he says, setting it down beside you. Not a dessert, just a thought. The plums are warm, barely, and they taste like autumn evenings filtered, deep, a little wistful, like a story told slowly by someone you love. You find yourself leaning into the silence again, into the calm. It isn't heavy, this quiet. It's spacious. It gives you room. At the back of the room, Elliot closes the old ledger and places it on the high shelf. He doesn't tuck it away. He lets it rest, exposed, as though it deserves to breathe. Then he dims the overhead lights, ever so slightly, just enough to let the little table lamps take over. And oh, how they do. The bakery becomes a constellation of soft lights, each one glowing like a memory of a campfire or a lantern seen across a field at night. Each light is small, but together they warm the whole room. From your seat, you can see the edge of the oven still lit, an ember-like glow from within, fading slowly as the fire recedes. The scent of baked bread has mellowed into something more. Toasted is quiet. Something settle in your chest. Not an answer, not a realization, just the kind of stillness that makes room for rest. Soon the lamps will come on. Soon the oven will grow quiet. Soon the door will close for the evening, and the bakery will sleep. But not yet. For now, the light lingers, and so do you. The street greets you like an old friend, content and unhurried. The air has cooled now, but not sharply. It carries the softness of damp stone and the faint perfume of fallen leaves. Somewhere in the stillness, a chimney exhales gently into the dark, sending up a ribbon of wood smoke that curls through the air like a lullaby rising. You begin to walk, your steps light, your mind unwound. Each footfall is softened by the dampness of the cobblestones, the occasional crunch of leaf underfoot offering the smallest punctuation to the evening's quiet. You don't walk with a destination in mind, only a feeling. The kind that guides you gently as a candle flame leans toward an open window. The bakery's warm light behind you fades with distance, but not with finality. It feels less like a place you've left and more like a hearth still glowing at the center of your memory. Something you can return to without knocking. As you pass along the winding lane, windows glow in soft amber, curtains flutter, slightly parted. Behind them, lives unfold slowly, someone washing dishes, someone folding a blanket, someone sitting still with a cat curled in their lap. You move past each of these small scenes with quiet appreciation, as if reading the last line of a poem and letting it linger before turning the page. A small archway invites you to turn. You pass beneath it, the stone damp and cool above your head. Beyond it, a small garden opens unexpectedly. It's not grand, not designed, but gently wild. A patch of herbs here, a cluster of night-blooming flowers there. A bench, carved from old wood, sits beneath a fig tree. And though the figs have long since dropped, their scent still lingers faintly in the air, earthy, sweet, a little sleepy. You pause, sitting gently. The bench sighs under your weight, but not in protest. Just in acknowledgement. Above you, the sky is a quiet grey-blue now, dappled with early stars. No moon tonight, only a gentle scattering of light, as if someone dusted sugar across velvet. Somewhere nearby, a wind chime stirs. Its voice is soft and low, like the echo of water against stone. You don't check the time. There's no need to know it. You are not late for anything. You are not expected anywhere. You are simply here. You take a breath, not a deep one, a soft one, the kind that arrives not to steady you, but to remind you you are already steady. You let your gaze wander the garden, noticing things you wouldn't have if you'd walked any faster. A pair of stone rabbits nestled in ivy. A rain-filled saucer with one perfect yellow leaf floating at its center. A small sign, hand-painted, nestled beneath a pot of lemon balm. Kind things grow in quiet places. You smile. Somewhere down a street you can't see, a radio hums an old lullaby. The kind with no words, just notes, familiar and distant, like a song heard through a dream. You rise from the bench eventually, not because you want to leave, but because the evening itself is continuing its journey, and you are part of it. The path leads gently onward, past a low stone wall brushed with moss. A blackbird rustles in the hedge, then settles again, deciding you are no cause for concern. A porch light flickers on somewhere nearby, golden and steady. And farther ahead, the sign of the old bookshop comes into view again, slightly but still glowing. Quill and lantern. You don't plan to stop in, not tonight. But as you pass, you pause to glance through the glass. Inside, a single lamp glows behind the counter. A book lies open beside it, a pen resting along the spine. Behind the glass, you see no people, just the hint of stillness and paper. the sense that stories are sleeping softly inside. On the doorstep, the grey cat is gone, perhaps inside now, or perhaps slipped off to follow another wanderer through the evening. You continue down the lane, passing under a string of lights hung lazily between two windows. They sway gently in the night breeze, casting slow-moving patterns on the cobbles below. The air tastes faintly of mint, perhaps from a garden, perhaps from memory. Another turn brings you to a familiar sight, the small fountain tucked into the square's corner, its basin shallow and rimmed with stone. The water doesn't gush, it barely murmurs, but its sound is enough to draw you closer. You sit on the edge, fingertips grazing the cool surface. The water reflects the string lights above, distorting them into shimmering threads of light, like stories dancing. Across the square, someone draws a curtain closed. A window creaks open nearby, then stills, and the town becomes quieter still. You feel it again, that hush, not silence, something better, something living. A hush made of warm light and soft steps, of stories told in low voices, of tea poured in two cups even when one is left full. It is the hush of contentment, the hush that comes not from absence, but presence, the hush of a town that knows you are here and is glad. You lean back slightly, breathing in the night, the scent of stone, of herbs, of wood smoke, and baked pears still clings faintly to the evening air. You let it rest around you, like a shawl slipped gently across your shoulders. The stars are brighter now, the wind chimes sings again, and somewhere a window closes softly. The night is folding itself around you, page by page, breath by breath. You leave the fountain slowly, as though stepping out of a dream mid-sentence. The quiet has deepened, but not darkened. It wraps around your shoulders like a favorite coat, one with hidden pockets and the memory of old perfume. The town is resting, now fully. Its doors are shut, its windows are soft with light or dim with sleep, and the rhythm of your steps is now the loudest sound. You walk a little farther, turning down the narrow path that leads you home. Not a dramatic home, not a grand one, just a small room at the edge of the square, tucked above an old stone wall where the ivy grows thick. The windows are low and wide, the glass a little wavy from age, and the door is painted in a muted shade of blue, not the bright kind, but the kind that's been dulled by gentle weather and never repainted. A blue that's earned its softness. You reach the little gate, lift the latch, and step into the garden below. It's not quite a garden in the proper sense, more of a space where plants and moss have chosen to gather. A few pots line the steps. One of them holds thyme, another rosemary, and a third something you can never quite name. It only blooms at night. Its petals are dusty silver white. There's a small porch with a single chair and a woolen blanket folded across it. You brush your hand over the fabric as you pass, feeling its familiar texture, the way it holds the scent of evening air and sun-warmed wood. You unlock the door and step inside. The room is already warm. Someone kind, someone Or perhaps simply, your earlier self has remembered to turn on the lamp by the bed. Its light spills like syrup across the wooden floor, catching the edges of the rug, the low shelf of books, and the curve of the teacup left on the windowsill from the morning. You set your coat gently on the hook by the door, slip off your shoes with a slow sigh, and move into the quiet heart of the room. The bed is turned down, covers folded neatly back. The sheets are cool and clean, with just a whisper of lavender tucked into the pillowcase. There's a book resting face down on the quilt, its spine relaxed. A page carefully marked with a ribbon. You don't need to pick it up. Not yet. Not tonight. Instead, you move to the small wooden cabinet near the window. The kettle sits there, beside a jar of loose chamomile and a smaller one of crushed lemon peel. You fill the kettle from the pitcher beside it, set it on the low burner, and light the flame with a match that smells faintly of pine when struck. The water begins to heat, and the room hums quietly with its presence. The kind of hum you don't hear so much as feel behind your ribs. While you wait, you take a moment to sit in the wide windowsill, legs tucked beneath you, your hands curled around your knees. Outside, the street is still. The lamp by the gate flickers, its light reflected in the rain-slicked stone. You remember Elliot's hands folding the bread, the cello's low song, the feel of the garden bench beneath you, the silence between notes, the warmth of barley water, the note you left behind in the journal. It's all still with you now, soft and layered, like blankets drawn up one by one on a cold night. The kettle hums more insistently now, so you rise slowly, scoop the herbs into the pot, and pour the water with both hands. The scent drifts upward, sweet, floral, a little tart. You carry the cup to your bedside and set it on the little tray beside a glass of water. A small tin of salve and a folded handkerchief you keep there, though you rarely use it, just in case. It smells faintly of cedar and bergamot. You pull back the covers and slip between the sheets. The weight of them is perfect, enough to remind you of your body, but not so much that you notice their edges. The mattress is slightly indented to your shape from nights before, the pillow cool against your cheek. You settle into the softness like a sigh. You take a sip of the tea, just one, enough to warm your mouth, to remind your breath to slow. Outside the window, the wind brushes gently against the glass. A soft hush follows, the same hush from the bakery, the hush of Elliot's steady hands, the hush of water in the fountain, the hush of the lost and found shelf. You reach out to the lamp and dim it just slightly, leaving the room bathed in an amber dusk. The only sound now is the faint creak of the floor as the house settles around you. Not a loud creak, not sharp, just the house reminding you that it, too, is ready to rest. And you, finally, let go of the last thread of the day. Your eyes close without asking, not because you are tired, but because this is what comes next. Because some days end not with endings, but with a return to the warmth of soft linens, to the scent of crushed leaves, to the comfort of knowing there is nothing you must do but be here, now, still. Sleep does not take you all at once. It comes in waves, gentle and patient, as though it knows you need the space between waking and dreaming, a space to drift, a space to breathe, a space to remember nothing urgent and everything soft. You lie still, your body relaxed beneath the layers of blanket, your breath falling into the easy rhythm of the night. The warmth of the tea lingers faintly in your chest, mingling with the coolness of the pillow beneath your cheek. One arm is tucked beneath the quilt, the other resting loosely by your side. Even your fingertips feel drowsy now. The room hums quietly around you, a lullaby of resting wind and distant wind. The lamp, dimmed to its lowest setting, casts only a faint glow like starlight caught in a jar. It turns the edges of your blanket golden, then silver, then dusk-colored. Slowly, even that begins to fade from your awareness. In your mind, the town gently unfolds once more, not in vivid scenes, but in feelings, impressions. The way the bakery's warmth welcomed you, the hush of the cello, the scent of flour and thyme in the air, the taste of pear and almond, the quiet tap of a spoon against porcelain. These are not memories, exactly. They are textures, sensations, and now, as sleep edges closer, they become something more. You're walking again not with your feet, but with your thoughts, through a version of the lane that exists only in the hour between wakefulness and dreams. The cobblestones are the same, but softer beneath your steps. The lanterns sway more slowly, as though caught in syrup instead of air. The windows still glow, but the light behind them pulses gently, like breathing. The bakery is there too, but it's both open and closed, as if it's waiting just for you. You see it not with your eyes, but with your awareness. The golden light, the warm air, the small table by the window. Your teacup waiting. Elliot is there, though not in focus. More a presence than a person now. His hands are still dusted with flour. His voice hums low, not in words, but in feeling. You sense he's baking something just for you, not because you asked, not because you need it, but because this is a place where kindness lingers, where comfort is prepared not in response to need, but as a quiet offering, always ready, always warm. And you realize, somewhere just beneath your drifting thoughts, that you are safe, truly safe. Not just from harm or noise or the outside world, but from urgency, from expectation, from being anything other than what you are right now. The deeper you drift, the more the world softens. The bakery becomes a dream. The cobblestone lane becomes a river of quiet. The string lights above become a slow parade of stars. And your bed becomes something more than a bed. It becomes a cocoon, a shell of stillness, a blanket of night, a nest of breath and warmth and surrender. You begin to fall now, not like a stone, not like a leaf, like a feather. Slow, light, certain. And as you do, your thoughts scatter like dandelion seeds floating outward, gentle and bright, not needing to be gathered again. A pie cooling on a windowsill, a spoon dipped in barley tea, a fox carved from wood, a journal with no ending, a bench in a garden with no name. You let them go, you let it all go, and sleep, kind and steady, catches you. Somewhere far outside your window, a breeze stirs through the ivy, brushing gently against the wall like fingertips over worn stone. The sound is so faint, it might not be real, might only be the memory of wind moving through trees, or the hush of turning pages in a book you haven't opened in years. But it settles around the room in slow, winding patterns, as if the night itself is keeping watch, careful not to wake you before you're ready to rise. The room, still lit only by the faintest amber glow of the bedside lamp, has fallen deeper into stillness. Every corner, every surface, every fold of linen seems to rest with you. Even the air has softened, cooled just enough to encourage you to pull the quilt a little higher, tucking your shoulder beneath its weight, letting your cheek rest more fully into the pillow's familiar curve. You are not yet fully asleep, but not quite awake either. Your thoughts, like tide water, drift slowly in and out of shape, half images, sensations, soft echoes of sound. There is no story, no urgency, no beginning or end, only gentle impressions, slow as breath and twice as quiet. A kettle whistles, somewhere, maybe real, maybe dreamed, its sound stretched and distant, like the song of something far off and kind. You hear again the wooden spoon stirring tea in a ceramic mug, the clink of sugar cubes, the distant crackle of Elliot's hearth, as loaves begin to bake in the deep hours of the night. You see the bakery not with your eyes, but with your sense of comfort. Its shape is not exact, but its feeling is certain: wood and warmth, steam and flour, soft lamplight pooling on the counter where your cup once sat. You know this place in the way you know your own heartbeat, even when you're not listening for it. Perhaps Elliot is there now, moving quietly through the stillness of his kitchen, folding dough in the silence before sunrise. Perhaps he's humming under his breath as he wipes flour from the edge of a bowl, or checking the proofed loaves with a gentle fingertip and an approving nod. There's a rhythm to this hour that few are awake to witness, a quiet cadence that belongs only to the early risers and the dreamers who never quite went to sleep. You drift with him now, your mind gliding through the scent of butter warming in a small copper pan, the sound of old wood creaking as he leans into the shelves to reach for a jar of fennel or lemon zest. A teacup is warming on the counter, waiting patiently, steam curling upward in lazy spirals. A record, barely audible, plays a familiar tune in the background, low piano notes that wrap themselves around the edges of the room like wool. Everything is soft, everything is steady. Even the thoughts you once held tightly, lists and worries, questions without answers, have melted into the folds of the pillow and vanished somewhere into the weave of the blanket. There is nothing left for you to carry, nothing asking to be solved. In this hour, nothing is expected. In this room, everything is allowed to be quiet, and so You rest, not because you must, but because your body has remembered how. The window pane holds the first signs of early light, not quite sunrise, not quite moonset, just a dim grey-blue edge, like the world thinking about waking but deciding to wait a little longer. There is still time for dreams, still space for peace, and still warmth in the folds of the night. You feel your breath move slowly through you, in, out, unhurried. The quilt rises and falls in rhythm. Your hands have stilled completely. Your mouth has softened, and your mind, like the last ember in a fire, glows gently without flicker. And still, the world outside remains quiet with you. The ivy rests against the wall. The street sleeps in silver. The town listens, and so does the sky. There is nothing more you need to do now. No door to open, no cup to lift, no name to answer. You are already home, already still, already held. You don't know how long you've been drifting. Only that time has gone quiet. The hours between deep night and first light are not hours you measure, but hours you feel. They pass like mist, like the hush of snow falling on rooftops, like the lull between a question and its answer. Somewhere beyond your window, the town sleeps on, but something in the air has shifted. Subtle promise that morning is thinking of returning. Your breathing remains slow, unhurried. You're not quite asleep now, not fully. You float in that gentle, silvery space where dreams still brush against the edges of waking, where the warmth of blankets becomes part of your skin, where the pillow beneath your cheek feels like the curve of the moon. In this space, you feel held by the hush, held by the stillness, held by the echo of a place you know better than memory. And again, as softly as before, the bakery returns, not as a vision, not as a dream, but as a presence, and glowing like a hearth remembered. You don't picture it with walls or windows, not even the smell of cinnamon or honeyed scones. Instead, you feel its rhythm, the slow breath of rising dough, the steady hum of a morning beginning again, the quiet promise that warmth is always waiting. It lives in you now, even as you lie here, the world still paused. Perhaps Elliot is already awake. Perhaps he's wrapped in his quiet routines, the flick of the light switch above the oven, the press of his palms into soft dough, the familiar scrape of ceramic mugs arranged in a neat line along the shelf. Maybe he has already lit the small lamp beside the lost and found shelf, its glow spilling gently over the carved wooden fox and the notes left by strangers who've passed through and softened. And maybe, just maybe, he's set aside a cup for you. You turn slightly beneath the quilt, the fabric sighing softly with you. Your body feels loose, your spine long, your arms heavy in the best of ways. Every breath moves through you like a wave over smooth sand and slow, even, sure. Outside, a breeze touches the window pane, no longer cool and damp like it was before midnight, but lighter, fresher, carrying the first breath of dawn. It brings with it the scent of wet earth and the faintest trace of rosemary, like someone nearby is already tending to their morning garden. You imagine the ivy along the stone wall, its leaves still damp with dew beginning to stir. The windows of the old bookshop, still dark, waiting to blink open. The cobblestones catching the first hints of light in their seams. Everything quiet, but not asleep. Everything ready, and used till wrapped in blankets. Eyes closed, but no longer. Dreaming are ready to. You don't move yet. There is no need. The moment is whole, just as it is. You linger because you can. Because these are the minutes no one asks for, but everyone needs. The soft in-between. The pause before a fresh page. The part of the story where nothing happens, and everything is allowed. Eventually, you feel the weight of the covers shift slightly as you begin to stir. Not from restlessness, but from readiness. Your body, now filled with stillness, begins to stretch gently into the day. Your fingers twitch, slow and sure. Your toes uncurl beneath the sheet, and your mind begins to gather the pieces of the morning with quiet affection. The sound of water waiting to boil, the softness of your wool scarf where it hangs on the back of your chair, the image of warm hands shaping bread in a room just down the lane. You rise slowly, like the tide returning, like the morning itself. And even as your feet find the floor, even as your hands reach for the worn sweater folded neatly beside the bed, you carry it all with you, the hush, the warmth, the echo of a place that never needed to say goodbye. Because in the softest part of you, the bakery still glows. The first light of morning is not sudden. It does not shout. It does not rush. It tiptoes in, gentle as steam rising from a warm cup, brushing softly across your cheeks, your forehead, the backs of your hands where they rest atop the blanket. Your eyes remain closed, but you feel the glow, not just from the sun returning to the sky, but from within you, from the long, quiet night you've been given. From the softness you let yourself sink into, from the knowing that nothing needed to be done, and still, everything unfolded perfectly. You lie still for a while longer. The warmth of your bed holds you like dough in a linen cloth, informed, unfinished, but already becoming. There is no pressure to rise. The world outside your window is just beginning to stretch. Even the birds seem to sing in whispers. When you do open your eyes, the room looks familiar and new all at once. The morning light lies gently across the floor, turning the grain of the wood golden. Shadows slip beneath the bookshelf like quiet thoughts. The kettle waits patiently on the cabinet, as if it, too, understands the value of slow beginnings. You sit up slowly, your body warm and rested, your breath still deep with sleep. A quiet smile touches your lips without request. No alarm has sounded, no voice has called. It is simply time. Time to return to the day. The way one returns to a favorite page in a favorite book, not from obligation, but from affection. You move through your morning like someone remembering a song they once loved, washing your face in cool water, pulling on a well-worn sweater, folding the blanket at the end of the bed, with hands that feel stronger for having rested. Outside, the lane is waking too. The light spills down the stone steps, catching on ivy glinting across windows. You see someone watering a plant on their windowsill, a child trailing a toy wagon past the old bookshop, the sleepy blur of a postman with a warm pastry in his hand. You fill the kettle, you steep the tea. The scent of lemon balm curls into the corners of the room, chasing away the last of the shadows. And then, as naturally as breathing, your feet find the path back to the bakery. The walk is familiar, but every detail feels fresh. The air is crisp and smells faintly of ash and mint. The light reflects in soft puddles along the cobblestones. The bookstore cat lies stretched across the sunny patch by the stairs, eyes closed, paws tucked neatly under Dot. And at the end of the lane always, at the end the bakery waits. The windows glow with morning gold. The door is propped open just slightly, letting warmth spill out into the street. And inside, Elliot moves with the ease of someone doing what he loves without hurry. He's arranging small jars of jam beside the scones, tucking a sprig of thyme into each plate, folding linen napkins with a gentle crease down the center. You step inside, and the bell above the door gives its soft, familiar chime. He looks up and smiles, not surprised to see you. Not expectant, just glad. "Good morning," he says, as though the greeting itself has been baking since before sunrise. You nod, return the smile, feel the warmth settle once more in your chest. You choose a small table by the window, not the same one as yesterday, but one close. The journal rests nearby, its pages opened to a new entry, the spine tied gently with a dried sprig of lavender. Elliot brings you a warm pear scone and a cup of steamed milk with honey stirred in. You don't even have to ask. He knows. You sit in the morning light, the quiet bakery alive with the small, slow movements of its day beginning. Someone reads near the back. A woman arranges a bouquet of herbs in a vase beside the shelf. The air hums with soft piano notes and the smell of cinnamon and bread. There is no pressure here, no push to plan or do or decide. You are here, you are well, you are whole. You sip your milk slowly, feeling it settle deep within you. The warmth stays longer this time, as if your body has remembered how to keep it. Outside, the town continues to wake. The sky turns a lighter blue. The leaves shiver in the breeze. The cat rolls to its other side, and within this little corner of the world, you are still wrapped in stillness, in safety, in the calm that lives between the pages of a quiet morning. You take another bite of your scone. You write one more line in the journal. You let the sunlight touch your hand where it rests beside your cup. And you know whatever today holds, however it unfolds, it begins here, in softness, in stillness, in peace.